Ring the bell 16 times, folks, because a new era has begun. It's volume 60 of the One Piece Virgin Eggheads Book Club podcast covering volumes 585 to 594 of One Piece. I am the captain of the measly crew here on the, what's the name of our ship? The Thousand Virgins? Monkey D. Jones, joined as always by your vice virgin captain, Eggy V. Rodriguez.
Cheers. Here's a toast. The blood of our enemies, but...
A toast to 60 volumes, Eggy. And people are probably wondering, okay, they said every 5 volumes they're having a special guest. We've had Heartsy, we've had Erich, we've had Biggs. Well, I'm pleased to announce my neighbor JJ just might be voicing his One Piece opinions. I mean, it's up to him. I'll give him a shout and see if he comes... calling it. And Eggy, if you have to turn off your camera to pick your nose, it is what it is, but JJ!
Hey, yo, what up, monkey? How you doing, boy?
Hey, it's volume 60 of One Piece. I know you read it last night because I came over when you were drunk and snorting weed or whatever the fuck that was. So what'd you think of the volume?
Man, this shit crazy, boy.
Yeah, what's your theory on what Luffy's plan is here and what message his crew picked up?
Hey, man, I'm gonna tell you that, bro. Them boys went and burned up all the homeless people, bro. I heard they trying to do that in, like, Skid Row and all type of things, man. They're crazy, boy.
Yeah,
man.
You don't want to live next to, Center City? What the fuck was that shit called?
I remember, man, I was watching, you know what I'm saying, my brother King Cobra, man, RP, man, you know what I'm saying, they had his funeral online the other day, man, and his papa talking about, man, he brought 10 homeless people into his apartment just to get them off the street, you know what I'm saying. That's where we need to be at, man, you know what I'm saying. We're losing the people that mean something, man. At the same time, these damn people that's burning people up, man, that's who we got too many of, man, you know what I'm saying. I'm talking about love one another, man. By the way, hope, you know what I mean, show your neighbor some love, man. Give me some money sometime, though, you feel me, you know what I'm saying. Keep me out of your house, you feel me. But anyhow, man, that was crazy, though.
Do you think that the Goa Kingdom and the Gray Terminal is perhaps even a metaphor for the world at large? Or maybe even one specific region of the world? Perhaps a Middle Eastern region?
I don't know, I mean, man, you know what I'm saying? Why is it you know what I'm saying? They got Goa and then they got Marijoa, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is all everybody gotta be going somewhere, you feel me? Why can't we just love what we got, you feel me, right here, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's living in trash, but that's your brother right there, you know what I'm saying?
I've had enough. I regret this. Let's let JJ go back to, I guess, picking at his asshole like we saw that homeless guy doing on the streets of Boston. We did, Eggy. We saw a black man with his shirt off just standing on a busy street in Boston, shoving, I assume, his full fist up his ass crack. And he had like the most pleasurable, happy look on his face as he was doing it. Like he was really scratching an itch. I assume that his prostate was really getting it good with hundreds of people walking by, keeping their distance, other than us who were not afraid to walk right past him.
And as I recall, wasn't he either yelling at somebody that was in front of a store, like a guard of some kind, or maybe the guard was yelling at him? All I know is that Jerry, you know, ever the brave individual, did stop in his tracks, pull out his phone, and start documenting the situation. And maybe that was the right thing for him to do, because who knows, that guy could have started running at me with poop hands.
Well, Hans
and doing
told
some
us,
crazy poop jutsu.
Hans said on their podcast that guy started following our group, and that's why Hans kept his distance for a bit, just to not get involved. And you know, eventually, before he caught up to us, the guy gave up and went back to fishing for brown nuggets.
Hey, you know what? We're right there by the the Boston Tea Party statue, and I think that guy was digging for the new tea bags of justice and freedom. So listen, if I can't shove my arms up my own asshole in public, you know, I don't know what kind of country this is anymore, to be honest.
I was shocked to hear that my neighbor JJ knows so much about King Cobra and watched his dad's funeral stream. I thought he had better things to do with his 9 children to take care of, but maybe not.
I mean, listen, when you're trying to feed your family on a budget, I think food hacks are, you know, you gotta become creative. And if there's new ways to get a buzz when you're living in a sort of maybe a gray terminal, you might say, as far as life goes, you know, you got to figure out what's going to be the light in your life that doesn't immolate you.
Okay, folks, that covers the special guest. Hopefully that wasted as much time as Heartsy would have with his opinions. So, Eggy, what is your top of mind?
Well, I think probably what was the most emotionally impactful thing in this volume for me, I had very high expectations. I'm hearing this is the number one volume. This was the one that really, signifying the new era.
Now, so when you hear that this is the number one volume, what do you mean by that?
Well, I seem to recall, maybe I'm misremembering, that was it indicated that this was like the top selling volume, or was that a different volume?
Yeah, I believe the hype from Marineford and really this era did breed the highest selling volumes, and either volume 60 here or something in the early 60s is like the most individually sold volume, but it's confusing to me how it all actually works out. We said this before and nobody corrected us in the comments yet, so maybe it's right.
Oh, I do trust their judgment. I mean, just like in real life, most people are virgins, but a couple are seasoned. But speaking of real OG veterans, the reunion of Buggy, Moji, and Kabaji, that was probably, I don't know, it's hard to, I honestly felt like probably more emotion. I don't know, it's so,
I'm
I feel like it's so
weeping over
wrong.
here. I'm wiping tears out of my eyes as you speak. It was so touching.
But
they completely fucking lie and gaslight him, and Alfreda's like, "You motherfucking liars!" They're so phony.
I think they call it "go along to get along," and I would rather have a day where the Buggy Pirates are back together than nitpicking over the little bits and pieces of abandoning year and
leaving
so on and
you
so
for
forth.
dead.
I mean, they left him in Impel Down, and he left a crew of the most loyal people that were willing to see anything he did as perfection when his own crew wouldn't even see him that way. So sometimes you need the ones who keep it real. And I'm going to keep it real right here. I don't think that I had enough prolonged exposure to Sabo for his arc to, it didn't really strike me too significantly. Maybe it's not even that the exposure to Sabo was relatively limited, but also that we are coming into this flashback off of the back of Ace's demise. So I feel like my depths of emotion had been really nailed so deeply. I was really drilled all the way down to my core, and I felt like Sabo I just don't think anything truly bad happened to him. He didn't have a devil fruit or anything like that. It's just that his ship sank. I'm thinking he's going to be okay. And I'm going to keep it real also. This is primarily, I think, probably from Burning Blood, but the cultural osmosis that he does exist is something that I've been spoiled on. So also that might have reduced the emotional impact that I might have possibly suspected something worse had happened. But there wasn't anything really concrete and definite enough for me here to get that feeling that something truly tragic had befallen him, other than his whole, backstory with his family and longing for acceptance in a different kind of way. So with that being said, I truly do believe that I had like a greater overall response to seeing Buggy back with his people. That's just where I wanted him to be at. I didn't want him to be some high and mighty clout chaser out here trying to act like he's the hottest shot in the world. So close second would be, well, I'm not trying to do close seconds anymore. I'm going to stick by that.
And at least you didn't try to claim every single person would obviously have Buggy's crew reunion as their top of mind. So, lots of changes in the new era so far. But here's my question. Here's something that I've been positing for years, and after this reread, I'm kind of on the fence. I want to get the Virgin's take. Would this flashback have been better served right before the Marineford War rather than right after?
I'm going to say I feel like yes, because we're I get the angle here. But once again, kind of like I mentioned, there was almost a fatigue of sorts, and I don't mean that in a way that it's commonly used most ways these days. I feel like I just mean that what happened there, like I said, it really expended me for my grief. Like, my grief reached a certain level to have the passing of Ace. So now we're like, oh, and now we're going to look back into his childhood and his experience with Luffy, his experience with Sabo, and it certainly is cause for an even greater level of grief. But for me personally, it was like, I was kind of tapped out a little bit. Whereas perhaps I think maybe if it had been addressed beforehand, there might have been maybe a bit more of a load behind. Because I mean, we already had so much with Impel Down, and we already had so much with the known history between Ace and Luffy. But I mean, some more of that, it would kind of built up the weight, and then with that passing, the slaying of Ace, I think that would have been the way for it to get more for me as far as an emotional reaction. But and I don't think it was quite there with this. It's a perfectly fine story in and of itself, and I did enjoy it, and it's good for the world building and everything like that. But yeah, I feel like it could have been stronger beforehand.
I think this is, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but the only time Oda breaks his own narrative formula, where the flashback that sets up the stakes of the final conflict of the arc usually comes right before the conflict of the arc. Like, what if we got Nami's backstory after Luffy defeated Arlong? You know? Like, it feels so backwards and pointless, and when you present it this way, it almost feels like you're retroactively trying to justify Ace's decision to not run away from Akainu with this Blue Jam scene, where, you know, Akainu is Red Dog. So we've got Red Dog, we've got Blue Jam, this parallel. I don't know what it means, but it's just short words with the color in front. And Blue Jam, he's insulting Sabo. Oh, he's a piece of shit aristocrat. And then Ace says, oh, but I'll never run away. And then he gets lucky. Him and Dodon, they win that fight. It's like to justify Ace's demise is that he never grew from that character trait, and they try to write it off as, the apple don't fall far from the tree. Gold Roger was the same way. So, of course, Ace has that same trait. He'll never run away from a fight, especially if you just insulted somebody he loves. So it's like, wait, if I saw the Blue Jam scene before the Akainu scene, then the tension would be so fucking high when Akainu baits him, and it's like, oh my god, is he gonna go Blue Jam again? Oh fuck! Oh god! But he did it in the wrong order. So it just seems like a cheap justification rather than what would have been narrative tension.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I did not feel any kind of negative way about this volume at all, but perhaps it did feel a little bit like it didn't live up to maybe my mental expectations. This is how, but once again, like I said, we just came from something so significant, so incredible, so heavy that it would be hard to follow in any kind of way. This would very likely be one of those volumes. I think I've referred to it as like a transitory period before, where we kind of have like a major event, a little bit of a winding down, a little slice of life for maybe a chapter or two, and then we begin to start chewing on the next thing that's going to build us back up again. So I think regardless of what was going to happen here, it was going to pale in comparison. But yeah, with that paling, and then as well as this sort of strange construction, and I did just check while you were talking just to see, was there any kind of like delay in the publishing between the volumes? Like maybe there was sort of just a little hiccup that's maybe a once in a lifetime unusual situation. Doesn't seem to be. It seems like it released on time and schedule wise and everything back in 2010. So
well, I'll have you know,
how it was meant to be.
In the next volume, there actually is a 1 month break in chapters releasing at one point, and it will become very evident why next week when we read that.
Well, maybe I don't know what
as soon as you see the
is,
cover,
but
you'll know why, to be honest. He spoils it on the fucking cover. Bastard. Poor Eggy cannot be surprised.
To be fair, I did not look at volume 61's cover after I finished this volume, so
would have been a fucking major spoiler. Major. So I'm glad you did not.
Sometimes I do look, so yeah, I guess, there was it's it's like that. It's sort of like the universe has an energy, and there's just like sometimes there's just like a magnetic pull and a magnetic pushback. I feel like it's real.
So anything else from your buggy top of mind here, even though I kind of stole it with my question about the placement of the flashback? I still want to talk about that very briefly while we're here, because I think the devil's advocate argument here is that perhaps Oda is thinking about his story fourth dimensionally. And what I mean by that is the dimension of time, where we're only experiencing it, week to week as chapters come out. But Oda knows, as an author, one day this entire project will be out in its completion. And it's basically he's building us a puzzle piece by piece, but he's not doing it in any particular order sometimes. Sometimes he'll give us a puzzle piece just smack dab in the middle that means nothing to us because there's no connecting pieces to it, and there won't be for 700 or 800 chapters. So we're just like, why the fuck did we read that? What is that even? Is that a joke panel? Is that a serious panel? I don't even know what that piece is. And so once we read the whole thing, we have complete context of Ace's death on a reread. Maybe hits differently to the initial read. Is there an argument for once you read the whole thing, you have all the information anyway, so what's it matter the order you read it?
No, I do feel like there's a phrase greater than the sum of its parts. I don't think that's exactly what I'm looking for here, but I feel like the way in which you experience the information, I believe, is that means something. It's not just to receive the information. It's kind of like to say how when they were in the tavern and Rayleigh said to Robin, like, oh, you want to know where the One Piece is? I could just tell you everything right now. And they, no. Because the way that they're going to experience this, they could just receiving the information versus experiencing how they're going to receive the information throughout their travels, throughout their life's journey and experiences and so on. It's two different things. So I do feel like there's some merit there.
Here's my top of mind, Eggy. And we're going to have to go into some Japanese translation here. We're going to have to bring back a conversation from Ace's death scene. As you recall, Ace is dying. He says, "Oh, Luffy, my brother, my blood brother who I drank sake with, I'm so sorry. I could not help you see your dream become a reality." And Eggy's like, brain blast. That dream is to be the Pirate King. And I was like, well, I don't know. It seems like Ace wanted to make Whitebeard the king, but it's not like Luffy has any other dreams, so who knows? Uh-oh. What's happening here in chapter 585? Ace, Luffy, and Sabo, young children here, all sharing their dreams with each other. Sabo says, "I want to see the world and write a book about it." Gay! Ace says he wants to be a great pirate. Generic and gay! Eggy, what is Luffy's catchphrase other than Databayo? What is Luffy's catchphrase that he says to people all the time?
Well, you're kind of catching me off guard here, I guess.
It's not a trick question. You know what it is. I'm gonna be king of the pirates.
Oh, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
In Japanese, that is Kaizoku o ni oe wa naru. With that naru at the end being the verb to become. I'm gonna be the Pirate King. It's a declaration of fact. I don't think it's a dream. I think he's just telling people what's gonna happen for sure. While they're sharing their dreams, does little child Luffy say, "I'm gonna blank"? No, he says, "Ore wa ni naritai." Naritai is want to become. Different word than naru, to become. He's not saying his standard catchphrase here that everybody else and a lot of readers assume he was saying there. He's expressing a desire, not certainty.
Well, yeah, that is very much an important distinction to make, because I guess if we're talking about, we were just speaking moments ago about the character development of Ace and his stubborn refusal to back down that's displayed here in this volume, which was also pertinent to his confrontation with Akainu. Well, we are seeing then the character development of Luffy. I would imagine. I feel like Oda is very precise, very particular about the way that he's putting things together. So I think.
Yeah, think about it this way. He intentionally cuts off Luffy's sentence so we don't get to hear what he's saying. Most readers just jump to that easy assumption, oh, he didn't need to write it again. We've seen him say it a million times. But then we see Sabo and Ace's reactions to it, and they have very different reactions. Let's see, what was it? Okay, Ace and Sabo, they look shocked and confused. But then Sabo is laughing hysterically and says, "You're really funny, Luffy." Ace is freaked the fuck out and says, "I can't believe you actually said that." Now, if he said, "I'm gonna be Pirate King," is that the reaction we expect from these two? Shock, horror, laughing, fear? Wouldn't they just be like, "Oh yeah, I mean, that's literally what Ace just said. He's gonna be a great pirate." Why would they have any different reaction to Luffy saying the same shit?
Well, I guess the way that I kind of read it was just because even though what we had happen in the end of the last volume sort of felt like it was a joining of this brotherhood, this bond between the three. But once again, like, I'm just somebody who, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I need some time in the story for certain things to digest and to really solidify for me. So even though we just had this instance that definitely presented the reason for these three to have this brotherly bond, I feel like even so, Luffy still, on account of his age, on account of his more recent arrival to Dadan's, child care services, that he's still going to have a little bit of this underdog element to him. He's going to have, just some more of this recency bias to him. So that's kind of how I read it, as like, these guys, Sabo and Ace, they've been doing their thing. They've been getting to this treasure. They've been handling these pirates, grown men as these kids. And Luffy, I mean, yeah, he has some good stuff on his resume now, but he's still this younger kid, and they would certainly, I think, feel like they are definitely going to have an edge over him as far as where they're going to be before he gets there. So for him to say this, I feel like it was that was the reaction that how I kind of read it was, well, what is this kid talking about? Like, I mean, yeah, he did this, but whoa, he ain't over where we're at yet, So that was kind of how I felt about it instinctively and reflexively as I was reading.
Well, Sabo's lucky that Usopp wasn't there, because if you laugh at his friend's dream, he beats the fuck out of you. So look out, Sabo. You're lucky that those celestial dragons blew your ass up twice, and that you're hopefully drowned and dead, or Usopp's gonna come get you. Eggy, I was going to ask where we go from here, but actually I did bring in a few comments. We did not get any new members of the crew again, since it's only been 3 days since the last episode, so maybe for next week. We had a lot of suggestions for what manga we should review, by the book, weekly, like this one, after One Piece is all caught up. And I feel like we really put it out there that we would like to try something shorter, maybe. Like, hey, what if we could crank out a whole series in a couple months? Wouldn't that be sick? Speaking of sick fuck named Hunter Cole says JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That has more manga volumes than One Piece.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
fuck off.
Well, volumes, but is it the same size of volume?
The chapters are fucking like 50 pages each.
Oh.
Fuck off! No! I'm not doing another 3-year series! Not yet! Somebody else said Shaman King, which I know nothing about. Do you know anything about Shaman King?
Well, I believe I recall the animated adaptation on, I believe it was Fox Kids, Saturday mornings back in like 2002. Do I remember anything else about it? Absolutely not, no.
Okay, so maybe a good option. We're both Shaman King virgins. Virgin King. Guns Beer Freedom said Whitebeard's weapon is called a Bicento, and it's one of the 12 supreme grade weapons along with Mihawk and Shanks' swords.
by Sento. That is not a weapon type that I'm familiar with, so I'm glad to learn something new. I played a lot of Soul Calibur in my day, and there's lots of weapon types in there, so the more Japanese weapons I could learn about, the more educated I feel. Thank you, GBF, for that.
I think somebody made an argument this past week that I saw, the distinction between a swordsman in One Piece and somebody who has a sword. It's like you have to fight with a particular swordsman technique to be considered a true swordsman. Like, for example, homeboy Luffy had a sword in Thriller Bark. I don't see people calling him a swordsman, but he fought with a sword one time, okay? And I think by end game, he's surely going to be stronger than Mihawk. So does that make Luffy a better swordsman? No, but he's still stronger. Yeah, so I think that logic works out, that Whitebeard is stronger than Mihawk, even if he has a sword, because he's not fighting doing sword techniques. He's fucking blowing people away with magic. So, and Mihawk, he's like almost exclusively just slashing at people.
But he sure does have that nice little homing quake thing that he's got shooting out of the ground in the video games. Yeah, that might be my favorite attack, even more so than zone type slash kicks through the world. Shout out to Rob Lucci.
Now, if you recall some of the conspiracies we might have talked about last week, this might be a reply to that, but Moon Milk ASMR said, "When we win, Oda will be vindicated." Again, I don't know what that means, actually. I take back what the prelude to that. I don't remember what we talked about and what that could mean.
I think it's when we catch up and we win in all the One Piece video games, his story is going to be vindicated because it's so good it could make all these great games.
And finally, My Life is a Dumpster Fire wants to know, will Eggy be watching the One Piece films? And Eggy, I have a proposition to you. We've been slacking on doing the members-only content, so what if, starting now, every month there will be at least one new members-only podcast here on the channel, and we could flip back and forth between reviewing the One Piece movies and continuing to do character tier lists of the sagas. So maybe we start with the movie before we finally do Water 7 that we're way behind on anyway. But
I mean, yeah, it sounds good to me for sure. Yeah, I'd like to provide our crew with some real dissertation, some real breakdowns of things I've been missing, and I love everything One Piece that I've been exposed to so far, so I don't see why I wouldn't enjoy the films.
And if the films are bad, it'll be fun to shit all over them. I have not seen most of them, so they'll be, I'm a One Piece virgin in that regard, I guess. So, hey, if you've been enjoying the show and you think, $3 a month, I would, but I get all the content for free anyway. Well, there's like 4 exclusive episodes already and a new one every month in the future, so become a member today, folks. Okay, Eggy, back to my previous question. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, I guess if I have the floor, I would say I do have a little bit of a secondary also top of mind. It just was something that I suspected was going to happen, so I just, I didn't give as much pleasant surprise as Buggy reconnecting with his beloved crew. But finally, after far too long, in volume 60, perhaps the selling point of the volume to get everybody running to the stores, folks, the Straw Hats are mudda freaking back in business. That's right, we see them all. We see them having some the tail end of their wacky and wild adventures in the place that it seems like it's been 1,000,000 years since Kuma hit him with that blast. That was back when he was still at least like 5% human or something, and not so much anymore. But they're figuring out, and it all comes down to there's a picture that's just dropping out of the sky. Extra, read all about it. And we basically get like 2 or 3 volumes, it seems like. I'm sorry, not 2 or 3 chapters in this volume where, aside from the Straw Hat crew being panned back to, and we're getting the idea that they are about to reconvene, thankfully, at Sabayoti, for the record. Thank you, I did predict that. So they're getting this extra coming out of the sky.
You can't take credit for a prediction if it hasn't happened yet, motherfucker. I don't see them reunited anywhere. What are you talking about?
Well, I at least had the inclination that was the last point that they had together.
But when they left Water 7, they said, let's go to Fishman Island. Okay. Come on, anything could happen. Look at the detours they went on.
Actually, well, and so it's funny because in me saying this, I'm also saying that I was actually wrong because Rayleigh comes to Amazon Lily in this volume. But I said they had to go back to Sabaody before Fishman Island because they needed the coded ship. And the ship is still docked, and it's being watched by our great hero, sexy Sanji.
Duval.
That's right.
But last thing we see is Kuma approaching Shaki and Duval and the Flying Fish Riders approaching the ship, and we just saw him in Marineford. He doesn't recognize Ivankov. He's full government monster now. You think that ship's gonna survive?
Well, I mean, Rayleigh's got it coded anyway. Might as well, if it needs a little reinforcements after a major laser blast. I don't feel like it's going to be completely evaporated into dust. Duval and Shaky, they might be going through a little bit of it. I'm not going to lie. And the ship damages could be sustained, but I feel like even with all that being said, I think it still holds. They would still need to go back there to convene with Rayleigh for the ship coding, even if they get there and Kuma has reduced everybody to ash. I mean, they probably could have expected that was going to happen before they, as they were getting sent off and to their different areas in any case, since that was the last thing that they'd saw. So I'm going to stick by it. I guess maybe this is not a full accurate prediction quite yet, but at least I had a mind that it was going to go this way, and it's trending along.
I just can't allow you to take credit until something actually happens, just because the characters are all planning on it. I mean, what is the message that Luffy, and that's the big mystery of this volume, and there's like mysteries within mysteries, because it starts off with Chopper looking at the newspaper and his eyes bulging out of his skull, shocked that Luffy has done something else, and it's not the Marineford War this time, and we're like, well, what the fuck else did he do? We just saw him on Amazon Lily. What did he get into? Vivi has a reaction. What is this, a fashion statement? Then we get the piece of information. Aokiji calls it the 16 rings incident. Now, at that point, did you think it was like rings that you wear as accessories, and that's like Luffy wore 16 rings for a fashion statement? Like, what the fuck is going on? Is that what you were thinking, Eggy?
I thought to myself, well, obviously it would be difficult to fit 16 rings on your fingers. So
Not
with
for
the
him.
16 rings, okay, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I didn't really think about that, to be honest. But what I did think of was that, okay, we also see him before this. Yeah, he's on Amazon Lily, and he's very full of grief, obviously. But it's also he's feeling like that he just wasn't enough. He wasn't strong enough. He was too weak to save Ace, and he's very torn up about it. So with that, leading into everybody being shocked, leading into these statements like, oh, it's a fashion statement, 16 rings incident, where my mind went to, I'm thinking of something like in Dragon Ball Z, how they have these, like the resistance bands and resistance clothing and things like that. That's like 100 pounds of, on each string of fabric to make you super strong. When they say 16 rings, I'm thinking he's wearing like 8 like armbands on each arm or something that weigh like 1,000 pounds each or something, and that he's like doing this training, and that what they're seeing is like escaped son of dragon training in remote location spotted by government's surveillance or something like that. I was feeling like it was trending in that direction, but what it actually ended up being was not at all what I suspected, which is that he was... I don't know if we really got any inclination that this bell existed on Marineford.
No.
Maybe we did. It didn't seem
This
memorable.
is a brand new idea.
Yeah, so he returns to the scene of the crime, essentially, in Marineford to ring their special era-changing bell that gets rung twice a year, 8 times a piece. That's like the maintenance of era. Like, oh, we're gonna ring it,
And he also stole a warship, and they did a burial at sea ceremony where they just like did a big circle around Marineford, I guess, right before he went and rang that bell.
Yes, the ox bell. Not the ox cord zoomers, the ox like the animal. Okay.
And then he's like, it's some sort of prayer with his hat over his chest, and they take the photo with all these Marines running at him in the background. And all of the Straw Hats have a big reaction to either this photo or reading the story or both. And they all say, hey, I got the message loud and clear. Now, Eggy, I'll ask again. Did you? What is the message here?
I want to say that this is Luffy establishing the era of Port Gaz Ace. I mean, I guess I could say he's doing his own era, but I feel like it's, he just experienced this terrible thing. There was this huge, incident, the whole war here, and yeah, Blackbeard said, it's gonna be my era because I got the 2 devil fruit powers and everything like that. But Luffy went through all that. He's extremely full of grief. He's saying, I'm weak. I need to become stronger. It's tearing him up inside. I feel like him doing this is establishing, you just did this to me. All you Navy people, you brought this tragedy upon me. But I spun back around. I gave you a piece of my, my rep, my cred. I said, you can't touch this, boy. Okay, like JJ might say. And punked him. And said, I'm ready to start my era where I'm going to level up to a whole new degree. And you guys aren't going to be able to do this to me and who I love ever again.
Just for fun, should we do some detective work here? And pull up chapter 594? And maybe do a little further analysis of this photo that the Marines are very angry. Quote, this picture has circulated around the world. And they're not happy about it. Are we seeing anything in particular about this photo that would... I don't know.
Well, there does appear to be like angry Marines raising their weapons in the background. I'm guessing that the ringing of the bell might have alerted them to his location. But the pose is it slays. I think that's what the kids say nowadays.
Is there anything different about Luffy?
Well, it looks like he's got a tattoo. Which
I
didn't realize.
Oh shit! What does that tattoo say, Eggy? Now that's a real mystery.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Ace's tattoo because it looks like appears to be 2 letters crossed out, the upper 2 letters on his arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless he crossed out the A also on the misspelling of ace to signify A as an ace is gone. But it doesn't really appear that way to me as far as what I can see on these halves of the. But his aura is, he's stunting. All right, too many Zoomer words, but you get the idea that this
is
would
the tattoo.
Be...
Is it too obscured to properly read at this point? Maybe we'll have to hope next volume we can learn about this new mystery.
Well, if I had to guess, it looks like it says Sony, Sony, but is that supposed to be like Thousand Sunny? But he's misspelled. Then why are the 2 of the letters crossed off? Just based on the halves of the letters that I see, definitely a Y on the bottom. Looks N like maybe D possibly on the 3rd letter. Looks O like and looks S like. So, or maybe sorry, SORY. Maybe there's a little something coming off to the right there off that 3rd letter. But I don't think I could properly make a good prediction on it at
Hopefully
the moment.
we'll get a clearer look at it next volume to solve this one.
But very gangsta though. Like, he just got all these people raising up weapons behind him. He's declaring a new era. He's all bandaged up still, fresh ink, and just has the head on his chest. You know what? Humor me.
Okay, Eggy, he's doing the pose with the hat on his chest, yep. But I don't see any tattoos on Eggy.
Alright, my lymph nodes have already suffered enough. You know what? They don't need tattoo ink going through them too. But maybe one day.
Eggy, is Sabo Israeli pilled here? saying, this town is crazy. People are going to die, and they go on eating like it's nothing. They expect me to study. I'm ashamed I was born an aristocrat, I mean. I mean, well, what if you're a child and, like, just across the fucking wall, your country's bombing people into oblivion for century or half a century?
I mean, and also there is a trope of self-hating Israelis that become like they're the ones who they might both be very nationalistic and very lacking of empathy to their perceived enemies, but then also some who are so self-hating that they become the strongest revolutionaries and the most likely to go take it to the limit to say how displeased they are with the situation. So I think they're in that regard, I think there's an argument to be made there. I don't know how Israel feels about steampunk and dressing up, but I haven't seen too much Israeli cosplay in my day. But yeah, I think so far as the socioeconomic and geopolitical circumstances being addressed here, there's definitely something there. And then even if we want to take it a little closer to home, I always felt like Los Angeles as a city. I remember back in 2017, it was the first time I've ever been to Los Angeles, and I was sleeping in parking garages because I was too cheap to stay in a hotel when I was working out there. So I was driving my car around at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was in Beverly Hills, and I didn't have my GPS on. I was just kind of turning randomly. I was just kind of out there for a stroll, and I left Beverly Hills, and all of a sudden I turned down a street, and there's like 5 or 6 people in the street. They all scatter. And I didn't know where I was at. This is very strange, very bizarre. And it turned out that I had just started breaching the parameter of Skid Row. And so just even here in our own country, as Americans, and we're all extremely patriotic, that watch this series, of course, that it could be just like where you accidentally go from the most luxurious gated communities and you just turn down a street randomly that's right by there. And all of a sudden it's the worst poverty and homelessness right there. So could be even in your town, folks.
And I think Dragon says, this island or nation is a microcosm for the entire world. And I have to imagine Oda intends that to be also for our world. Just the difference in the 1% elite rich compared to how maybe billions of people live in horrible trash mountain poverty. And honestly, on a global scale, I guess we're part of that 1%, but honestly, we're not doing too hot compared to the actual elites. So let's, people below us, remember, we're joining you in the revolution for those higher than us. Don't fucking come at us. We're pretty normal.
That's right. When it comes to geopolitics, I say, hey, which politician is making me rich and treating me with luxurious pampering? None of them? Well, then none of them get my vote or support.
And is this not how our government works as well, where the politicians promise the criminals, the mafia guy, Blue Jam, hey, do this shit for us and we'll make you one of us. You can be an elite like us. Just go set up all the bombs in your own neighborhood. Don't worry, we'll open the gate and let you in. And Blue Jam fucking cuck bitch. Oh, the gate's not opening. Oh, I set up the Holocaust and now I have to burn in it? Oh, shit. So I'm glad that Don and Ace beat the fuck out of him.
Yeah, many such cases. It's like this is something I've referred to many times throughout my life, and I'm sure I always will. But if you are trying to be sympathetic to an abuser, you're never going to get anywhere because that's how they operate. Is with abuse. So you can't negotiate with terrorists, as a great president once said, who made our country a great place with accomplishing a lot of missions and so on.
It can't negotiate with terrorists, and when the terrorists are the people who rule and control the world, it's even worse. And sometimes you have to burn an entire neighborhood to the ground just so that they can have a parade through it the next day. And who cares about all the homeless people that were holocausted and misplaced?
And I guess it makes sense that this is being done in preparation. Allegedly, we have the personal element here with Sabo's family, and his, his runaway behaviors. But we do have it also mentioned that this is in preparation for the arrival of the celestial dragons. They're coming to take a peek, can't be having all this. As Sabo's father says, these people are trash. They're not even human. And I'm sure that the Celestial Dragons would echo that sentiment probably in tenfold. So yeah, it's like, oh, time to just kill it.
I think I've heard Netanyahu say that before too. I don't remember about who, but
was it? I forget which city is the next one to host the Olympics. It might be San Francisco or Los Angeles, something over there. Maybe I'm pretty sure it's in California. But they've been like bulldozing homeless camps that they let them hang out and build up for years, and then they're like, oh, there's rich people and like foreign nationals that we need to look good for coming, so they had to straight up just passing laws to make it illegal for homeless people to live anywhere in a certain spot and like bulldozing their tents. And
isn't that the whole point of Trump sending the National Guard into cities, is to clear out the homeless people?
I know he was talking about, when it started with DC, I think it was just because the politicians are there and you can't be having all this riffraff around our nation's most beloved and helpful people, politicians. And then he's talking about that it's to be tough on crime, but I do suspect that also, it's an image thing for sure, which is really just makes it even more despicable, I feel like, for anybody who would do this, because you allow the root cause to just continue to exist and do not address it at all whatsoever, completely overlook it. And the only time that you want to take any action is not to try and resolve a corruption or an inequality, but instead to just completely bulldoze it into a dumpster and hit it with a fresh coat of paint, and anybody who steps in that paint gets put into a camp somewhere. So very very strong parallels, but I guess that's just kind of how it's been for a long time.
I suppose before we solve the war in Gaza, we have to solve the war on the homeless here at home. If only our politicians had the same idea of taking care of our country's problems before shipping billions of dollars to solve others. It is what it is. Okay, Eggy, let's fly through a lot of these modern day updates now that the flashback has ended, unless you had any other pressing thoughts on that. You already said you don't think Sabo's dead, even though we saw his ship blow up twice, and then somebody who was an eyewitness went and told Ace and Luffy, yeah, I just saw him die. It's not like he washed up on shore, but maybe he's alive. Maybe the character in the video game is just him as a child.
So this, like, whoever this kid, I guess, is that comes and breaks the news to Ace, Luffy, and to Don, it's not his adopted brother, Sabo's adopted brother, because that kid looks like the child version of Duval.
Yeah,
looks
Stelly.
like a doll that came to life, very freakish.
That's a great character. Oh yeah, they're gonna burn all those people to death. Ain't that great? And then Sabo jumps out the window. Oh, you're gonna get in trouble. Oh, I don't care.
Maybe there's something to be said there that a child who, they say he's intelligent and everything, but who knows? I mean, if he's being adopted, he must have been an orphan. Really might have ended up in.
He's from a fellow aristocratic family that didn't want him anymore. So I imagine he's like, maybe they have a lot of children and he's the annoying problem child, and then this other aristocratic family who just lost their son, he's like missing. Oh yeah, just please take this piece of shit off our hands. And the parents, all they want is their kid to marry into a princess's family or something, so they don't give a shit that he's terrible.
But very well made character to definitely press the right buttons for sure. So that's not the one who, I don't know if we have any other identification for this.
I think he's just a Dodon friend. He's hanging out.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, because with being a sword wielder, he's kind of got a little bit of the bandit headwear going on. But like, he looks like a combination of like Hey Arnold and who's the one who made Majin Buu in DBZ? He's kind of got God, I should know, but I've the Boos are more memorable than that rat-looking alien guy that made him, that escapes me. But anyways, this looks like a bandit, swashbuckling desert bandit guy combined with the alien who made Majin Buu. So interesting characters. I don't know if I've ever seen one quite like it in the series before here, but just.
But you don't trust his judgment in terms of watching children explode and die.
I mean, I liked Don. She's a very well written, I guess, and it's not like she's being written so heavily even in this volume. It's not like she has a lot of complexity, but her motherly emotions really come through strongly here. With that being said, I feel like she probably had to have had some lapses at points in order to have herself put in the position where she's being used by Garp in the way that she is. Like, oh yeah, I got all this audio. If she was really this high-level elite criminal, I don't think she would have found herself in that position. So she's very human, and I think in that humanity is in a positive way. Still, her associates could maybe not be the most reliable narrators. When we saw the ship blow up, but death, I just didn't personally witness it strongly enough for me to say right now that I feel like he's gone.
At the very least, he's dead to Luffy and has been for a decade. So,
right.
I mean, that's what's more important than if he magically pops up like 500 chapters from now.
That is very, very fair, and that's true. I should, I guess I should have it in me to see it from his way, even if it's not explicitly depicted in the writing. There's enough circumstantial things there for me to be able to pick up on that. So.
Imagine Sabo's alive, like he sees in the newspaper Ace is going to be executed. Yeah, I'm not going to help. Fuck it. He's got it.
Father had some good points all along. It is what it is.
You think he survived and went back to his aristocratic parents?
There's nothing that immediately comes to mind for me, but I feel like there has to have been at least one instance in literature where you had somebody who was like actually what is it's still not quite fitting, but there was a cartoon that gets posted sometimes by the Wayans brothers, and I forget exactly what it was even called, but it was like they're these like little short, freakish, like 2 foot tall kids. Anyway, there's a character in that show where he's like a young Eminem, and he's like super, yo, what's up, play? I'm super gangster. And then he like goes home and he like takes his do-rag off, and his like perfectly manicured Richie Rich hair pops out. Well, hello there, father. What a beautiful day. And
what show did you say this was?
Oh God, I've only seen the meme of like,
was Eminem a cartoon kid in this show? Because I think I've seen that.
It wasn't voiced by him. It was the Wayans brothers, and it's this cartoon. They're kids. They're like maybe like 10 or 12 years old in the show, and they're like really disproportionately like 2 or 3 feet tall. They look freakish. Okay. But I guess it was a popular show, like maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s. I've just seen it used in memes, and that's really my only familiarity with it. But I say that to say, Sabo still, despite his rejection of his aristocratic blood and his acknowledgement of this inequality, he still came from it, and I would imagine he still has familiarity with the customs, the etiquette, and everything like that. If he needed to adopt that identity for his own survival, I don't think that he's probably welcome back with his family. We can't say that for sure. There wasn't really enough concrete evidence to say that that wasn't the case, but I think that he could play the role to get where he needed to get, or to go through what he needed to get through to survive wherever he was at, if that was something that would have helped him.
He's in this little tiny fishing boat, ginormous, monstrous celestial dragon world government ship. A guy blows him up. If he survives, maybe swims over to that ship, we don't hear about him again for decades and who knows how much longer. Would it be the darkest twist if Luffy finds out, actually, I do still have a brother, and he's a fully fledged celestial dragon now? Would that be the biggest gut punch to Luffy?
It would be definitely a betrayal of how Sabo had presented himself as far as we know him. Like, he was willing to...
People can change from age 7 to, or age 10 to 20 in a lot of ways. I mean, I barely changed at that period, but most people do.
Yeah, I barely changed from 10 to 34. I'm basically still doing the same shit, so it is what it is.
I'm still talking about One Piece.
That's right. Well, that's very true. But, I mean, it was definitely a notable rejection to go take yourself out of this element to live in somewhere like Great Terminal, which is like the most deplorable spot, the refuse of society. They said this is where all the discarded trash, both material and human, are going.
Hey, as Whoop Slap once said, fate or destiny here, and Sabo is somebody who was given one fate and chose a different destiny. And what if ultimately he has to succumb to his fate? He was born into this, and maybe that's what he becomes. Although he talks to Dragon, leader of the revolutionaries, maybe, I don't know, is that important?
Well, to be honest, I mean, the fact that the interaction does take place, I feel like it's not insignificant. However, it is fair that, especially considering we could see in his interactions with his family, even though they are not healthy and positive in the way that we would typically say like a family probably should interact with each other, his parents are not holding that ill will against him necessarily. They just want a certain outcome, and they're willing to kind of keep pushing him and keep forgiving or keep overlooking some of his transgressions in order to reach their desired outcome, their desired goal. So, yeah, I think it's, once again, in the same way that his interaction with Dragon is not insignificant, I also feel that his background and the path that was laid for him prior to his ship being blown up, also not insignificant. And I think that there's, I could definitely give a good solid nod to both sorts of outcomes as being very possible. A return to form or an introduction to full revolutionary, because the seed was certainly planted for that revolutionary mindset in what we saw in these last 2 volumes with Sabo, I would say. So this is just saying that he's not blown to smithereens, because I have absolutely no idea. He could have been turned to fish food. He's getting eaten up by Neptunia, and Momu's coming out and sucking up Sabo chunks. It is what it is. Yeah, man's got to eat tubes either way.
Maybe Brook's fruit can bring him back one day. Anything's possible in One Piece. We're about an hour in, and we still need to cover all the modern day stuff, but we're also trying to have a 60-volume celebration at a happy hour that ends in, a bit of time, so hopefully we won't linger for an extra hour here. But Dadan beats the shit out of Garp. How dare you? Those 2 boys are right there and you did nothing. He had it coming, in my opinion, and the fact that Dadan is stronger than a vice admiral, wow, that was a big shock, huh, Eggy?
Well, I'm gonna say on 2 things. For one, as I mentioned, even though we don't get like a super deep backstory on Dadan, the motherly energy, even when the boys are young, is very strong, very apparent. She's willing to put herself in harm's way versus Blue Jam to help out Ace. There was never any doubt that even though this is a sort of transactional situation, that she's got this, that's just part of who she is, and being the leader of the bandits that she rules as well. I'm sure it all kind of has a relation together. So there's that. A mother's grief is very, very strong.
And Garp knows he has it coming, and he let Luffy punch him earlier, so he's obviously gonna let people beat him up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a Whitebeard and Squard, if you will.
Or like when Nami beats up Luffy and he's all beat up and in pain somehow. I wrote down Whoop Slap is wearing a shirt covered in English letters to throw off that under his hat he has a number.
Oh yeah, we
Why is he wearing that? Why so many letters on his shirt, huh? Trying to overcompensate for your number? I'm gonna keep that theory going until it's proven. What do you think of Jinbei giving his speech to Luffy? Hey, don't dwell on what you've lost. Focus on what you still have. And we get this iconic panel of Luffy remembering all of his crew.
To be honest, that probably was the more emotionally impactful moment. Like I said, it just Buggy superseded it for me because I knew that it was very likely that this was going to be the outcome. But it is, in just so few words, so very powerful, because it's just such a human condition here, especially when we're in this volume and we are witnessing in this flashback, not to go back to there, but just as an idea, how greed and a sort of superiority can make us look so much off and separate so much from our humanity, whereas this is Luffy, in his most vulnerable state. Instead of looking off into this, greed that we're seeing from these aristocrats, he's looking off in this fantasy that, he would have been capable of overcoming all of these hardships. But while he's so being taken off in that direction, into this fantasy direction, and this grief carrying him that way, he still has these responsibilities really for his crew. It's not even that he has them, but he is their captain, and he needs to be accountable for what's going on with them. And he's been separated from them all this time, going off in this direction for saving Ace and then grieving Ace and feeling this self-loathing, sorry for himself, or pitifulness and everything like that he wasn't capable to save Ace when he still has all this to handle. So it definitely very impactful just to even remember that, because I feel like even us as readers, we were repeatedly taken off in this direction for so long over these last few volumes, as we haven't had the Straw Hats around to really keep us thinking about them as strongly.
And I guess the moral is, all of your family may die, but you can always make new friends. And in some cases, make new family.
That's right. I mean, it is not maybe as necessarily as extreme as what happened here with Ace and Luffy, but that is a natural part of our humanity, is that eventually we do lose those around us for the most part if we get old enough, and everything that we go through, and maybe sometimes there's a war element to it, but we need to continue holding ourselves together. We need to maintain our routine, taking care of ourselves, taking care of those around us who depend on us, or who we can be a part of in their lives, even if there is some reconfiguration throughout the years.
What did you think when Old Man Rayleigh swims across the ocean, including the calm belt? So there's giant sea monsters that should see him skimming the surface, and they don't even fuck with him.
Oh, did he kill a Neptunian? I thought maybe he did.
Probably.
Well, my first thought was when he gets out of the water,
he had to jerk off, yeah.
It kind of felt like his Oda, fantastic artist above all else. The proportions seemed a little, I'm not sure. He seemed kind of wide, but I guess that's just, I'm not even when I'm 60 years old, I'll never have that much muscle in my entire life, so I might not be knowing how, a man would look at that age.
He likes drawing the Roger Pirates is very barrel-chested, I think. Like, seeming, very broad, and for being only 6 feet tall, as big as you can be, maybe.
Right. So it was definitely a surprise. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, I had a suspicion that there would be a reconvening with the Straw Hats and Rayleigh. Didn't really expect it to kind of kick off this way, but I was happy to see he was doing all right. I feel like this is part of my thing that I've had going for a while, where the more that somebody is in the story, I kind of develop a stronger bond with that character more and more. And Rayleigh, he had a very strong entrance. He seemed very noble, very respectable this whole time, and this just really cements it even further that he's able to do something so great. So I'm really warming up even more, if at all possible, to Rayleigh, and I'm just happy to see him here, happy to see he's okay, he's in the right mindset, he's ready to do what needs to be done.
He has a little flashback to what Kuma told him when they were fighting on Sabo. And was this new information to you? Kuma tells him, I'm a leader in the Revolutionary Army.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it really does paint the sending off in a different light. I guess because we had that happen, but then it was also just coincidentally at the same time that the Kuma bots, that the exact name that I'm blanking on at the moment, but there's definitely a word for them.
The pacifistas.
the pacifistas showing up and being deployed as a defensive force. So perhaps with this revelation, in this interim between the Straw Hats being sent off to their different lands, which seem to be kind of fitting to their character, as it turns out, and Kuma losing the last bit of his humanity is in the Paramount War. Like, he can't even be recognizing Ivankov anymore. He's like totally just full robot. And was it Doflamingo said as much, that his humanity had been completely wiped out and fully mechanicalized, robotified. Maybe there was coincidentally, perhaps that's what they were aiming to route out of his person, just to quash all of that revolutionary sentiment and become a full bot, a full 5 elders servant slave to the system.
How many masters can he serve though? Because he's Kuma the Tyrant, used to be a king, now he's a pirate, now he's a warlord working for the government, but he also is secretly working for the Revolutionary Army. Is he just part of every faction at once at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like at this exact particular moment that might have been the case.
So does he have to carefully thread his needles when he does stuff? Like, he needs to look like he's attacking the Straw Hats to actually save them, that kind of thing. But now that he's completely robotified, maybe that's out the window.
I see it as like this, he had his tyrant era, and say he's 100% Kuma at that point. And we know that, he had this reputation for being incredibly cruel. And he goes into his warlord era. He's going to have to find some kind of common ground. I mean, we have, obviously, this might not be a typical necessity. We have Blackbeard here saying, I just picked the title up for like 2 weeks to totally flip you all in your head. We have Boa Hancock, who takes the title and is still, completely subservient to Luffy because she's in love with him. But I would imagine, this is just how I would feel about it, that he comes into this position and he needs to sort of divvy up his loyalty at that point. But then, I guess, do we have maybe not a super strong, full understanding of his background with him and Dr. Vegapunk, maybe at this point, but obviously there was some relationship there. And perhaps, as time went on and the pacifista was developed, maybe that sort of chipped away a few more percent from his humanity, more so into both becoming a loyalist to the government, but also just his humanity completely eradicated eventually, so it would seem. Yeah. Maybe there was a sort of a penance there, like, you were this cruel tyrant, and think about it, he's obviously a repentant individual, he's carrying his Bible around, he's probably like, I mean, it's all speculation on my part, but I feel like there could be something to be gleaned from that.
But where does the Revolutionary Army come into play? When does he join that? And are they sending him to work for the government undercover?
Well, we know he's got the past with Ivankov, and the flashback that we had at the end of the previous volume kind of establishes somewhat of a time frame there. So, yeah, I guess what I would have the hardest time parsing out would be you're a cruel tyrant, but also a revolutionary at the same time. I mean, I guess that's not so unheard of throughout history. Like, you're a revolutionary who then ascends to a leadership position and then enacts cruelty, and you're not exactly what you were cracked up to be. So there's definitely some pieces of this puzzle that I think are still missing yet for me to be able to put it together myself. But
in 2008, a lot of people called Barack Obama a revolutionary, and he became a tyrant.
Well, I think there's a historical precedent, all memes aside. That's not really
memes. Who's memeing?
All I'm saying is, what? Hashtag change.
Those bombs didn't drop themselves on children, Obama. Ironic name. Or maybe not so ironic. Anyway, we find out that Perona and Zoro weren't just sent to any random, destroyed, dilapidated, spooky castle. This is Mihawk's house. He just lives here, Eggy. He's hanging out with the big monkeys.
Yeah, it was very interesting that this is like where he kind of, does he choose to reside here? I mean,
of course.
These are, I think does he say something to that effect? These are like, that he trains on them or something like that?
He showed up and it was nothing but corpses as far as the eye could see, and that these mandrake monster monkeys, they just imitate humans so well, and that the humans here were so bloodthirsty and warlike that it's all the monkeys knew to learn. So yeah, they make great sparring partners, and Mihawk is such an edgelord that I guess he personally cleaned all the corpses out of the castle so that he could live there. I don't think he has any friends to do that for him.
You know what it reminds me of? Hashtag video game life. Being max level in vanilla World of Warcraft and putting yourself up in the Plague Lands and logging off there, logging back in there, and you'd be surrounded by the strongest enemies in the entire game who would then also have the best treasure and things that you would have in the game at that point. So you'd be out of the city, you'd be like far away, your bags might fill up with a bunch of trash or whatever, you're not having all the utilities and accommodations that you would have if you were repeatedly going back and forth to the city, but you're kind of like staked out there, you're the first one to show up when there's something going on that you could benefit from. So maybe there's some kind of parallel there, like being here, as he mentions, and as you mentioned, you know, him sparring with these creatures, but it kind of keeps him up to date with his abilities. If he needs to, you know, sharpen the blade, no pun intended, he's got plenty to work with. So that's
but was any wind taken out of the sails here, where we have this epic Barati showdown, Zoro versus Mihawk? Oh, this is the peak, this is my end goal, I can't wait to fight this guy in chapter 1428 one day. But now, like, they're casually hanging out at Mihawk's house. Like, we don't even get to see the instance where they find out what happened. Like, Mihawk told Zoro the whole story of what happened to Luffy. So, like, they're pals chatting it up. Were you hoping that the next time they saw each other would be a vicious fight to the death and not this?
Yeah, there would definitely be circumstances where that would have been something that I would have liked to see. I think with where we are at and the sort of implicit, I don't know if respect would maybe be the right word, but acknowledgement on Mihawk's behalf, even back at Barati, that Zoro was somebody who was very persistent in his dream to be the world's greatest swordsman. So maybe there's a little bit of an inkling of respect, at least for his drive.
And at Marineford, I think Mihawk is low-key a little gay for Luffy. Like, he has a lot of panels sucking Luffy's dick. Oh, he has the most powerful ability in all of the seas. He can make anybody follow him. So maybe he, respects his captain so much that he wouldn't want to fuck with Zoro.
Yeah, and he's a man of strong Christian morality, so he's he's not just out there trying to take pot shots. R.I.P. Moria, just like Perona said. But I think Moria was maybe more the type to try to pull a fast one on somebody. He was a little more lazy and trying to have his shadow slaves do everything. Where Mihawk, he's just a good old-fashioned traditional master swordsman. He's chilling out. If he needs to go fight some human monkey soldiers out to get some sparring in, so be it. But otherwise, he's just kind of chilling out. He's got his territory established. So I wasn't disappointed in this being the next meeting. It almost kind of feels a little bit like this is how it, given the circumstances, this would probably be the best place for him to be, because this is sort of like him being in a place that he wants to aspire to in the future. So he's kind of in his zone, in his atmosphere.
Homegirl Perona is weeping because she found out that Moria was killed in the war, even though that definitely did not happen. If anything, Doflamingo probably killed him after the war. But Mihawk, who left early as soon as Shanks pulled up, so does not get to see himself the fate of Moria, he has some doubts. He thinks this might be propaganda and Moria is still alive, maybe. So what do you think, Eggy? Did Doflamingo slash his throat up, or is he somewhere?
Moria, he's cool. I did feel like maybe considering, as we move along through the story and what we're experiencing, he did feel like a little bit of a weak link in the chain here because Jinbei was able to literally just splash water. I mean, you're a pirate on the ocean, and when you're not in Thriller Bark and you're not having your ship that's so specifically custom to fit your needs, yeah, like you're going to be by the water and your powers are very nullified. It might, I don't know, it's hard to say because what we saw in Thriller Bark, it shouldn't be anywhere near the weakest Devil Fruit, but it is a very strong vulnerability. And with that being the case, I think he definitely could have gotten taken out of the picture. I would not doubt it whatsoever. And Doflamingo, we've seen on multiple instances now that similarly to Blackbeard, he kind of serves this greater secret master, and he has no qualms about getting ugly if he needs to handle business. And
if he can cut Oris Jr.'s leg off, surely Moria's dead. I don't think his neck's much thicker.
Moria could come back from what Luffy did to him, and it seemed to be in a
well, and ironically, if somebody else gets his fruit, Moria could come back that way too.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
I guess if they have his corpse. Do you have any thoughts on Fat Usopp being trapped in like a giant, I guess, Venus flytrap island of some kind? The island's alive, and they say nobody's ever escaped. So do you believe Fat Usopp is going to make it to Sabaody?
Well, would he still... I mean, I'm guessing he still would have dials on him, even getting sent off. He's wherever his pocket's at, I think he's been able to, not drop anything so far. But also, I don't feel like I know, unless he would have had an impact dial already pre-charged and he could like blast out through the side, because obviously this is a very troubling situation to say the least. But I think the last instance that we see, the plant had closed up and then reopened, so maybe he didn't even need to like burst through the side. But I feel like the plant matter would definitely be very susceptible to like an impact blast. But with that being said, he's also fat, so his heart's not as healthy, and he's already gone through a lot on this island. So is he going to be in the physical condition to use it? Whatever you got to do to survive, I guess. But I feel like he'll be all right. It's not looking super good as far as what we see, but I'm trusting the plan with Usopp here.
Eggy, you once predicted maybe Frankie is not a permanent member of the crew. And I'm wondering if you were proven right, because last I checked, he just exploded himself with a nuclear bomb. And he kind of had like a memorial, like a giant thumbs up Frankie, like you'd kind of see after somebody was killed.
Well, what they told him. They said, don't.
He thought it was the pirate button. He made a chopper mistake.
I will say it wasn't a big red button like you would normally, but I mean, it said danger on the button right there next to it. So with that being the case, I feel like, but it's this, the laboratory of Dr. Vegapunk is where he was born, and it has all these blueprints allegedly. So it could also be a great false flag, in my opinion, because what could it be? Oh, he's open up his chest where he keeps all his cola bottles, everything, to stash some of these super secret Vega blueprints up in the his chassis, smash that self-destruct button, and duck for cover maybe. So that's kind of where my thoughts were about it, since they were so both really nailing the whole this button's going to self-destruct you. Also, by the way, there's priceless blueprints, all those together, and then no clear resolution. And also the nightmare of Baltimore. It's an incident in and of itself, an instant, timeless part of history that this just happened. I could see it having a double meaning, like, oh, it's a nightmare because this was blown up, but also this is where Frankie stole these priceless blueprints and started to utilize them for his own ends, and maybe the true Vegapunkers found that to be extremely unforgivable on, you know, all the way around with the destruction and the thievery. So there was a few things floating and bouncing around my head about that, but you know, I just have to feel like he's all right. You know, I always have felt like everybody's all right. Ace is dead now, so I've been proven wrong once. But I need, you know, if we have one death every 500 chapters, so be it. I'm not ready for another one so soon.
Frankie blowing up here, would it really be the worst thing for the story? Don't we have too many Straw Hats at this point? The best 80 chapters of the story were when it was just Luffy.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing of it is that you get all that time just to focus on him. He's gonna come through stronger as a result. Yeah, but
and what about Brook? He seems to be in a bad place here. He takes pity and, you know, on these thieves or whatever, these long arm Chinese eat with stick bandits here from Dr. Seuss. And they betray him and kidnap him immediately, and the people don't give a fuck. The guy, let's go summon another underwear demon. So, is Brook fucked here? I mean, Usopp's fucked, Brook's fucked. Nami's like stuck in the sky.
Now that I think about it again, maybe you had a good point about the fact that they aren't quite all the way on their way back to Sabaody yet.
Sanji can't even convince Ivankov of his identity because he doesn't match his photo and he's too prideful to say that it's him. And he also says he's never putting on a dress again. So there's a whole disgusting arc I need to understand. He gets chased by these transgender friends. They make him wear the dress, I guess, for one day. And they wore him down in less than a week. And now he's already overcome it and says never again. Could we have just avoided all of that and not made him wear the dress?
Well, part of me says absolutely, yes. I don't think it was necessary at all.
Seemed a little pointless. It was just a shocking image for the sake of it.
But, you know, it's a moment of weakness. You know, he just lost his entire crew. He could have been in a vulnerable state to be taken advantage of, groomed, mayhaps, you might say.
He's like a very thirsty man trapped in the Dead Sea. He's surrounded by all these Kamabakas.
You know, it's a when in Rome situation. Yeah, I don't think that it really tracks with anything else that has ever been a part of him. Like, he's never expressed any kind of openness to something like that. And yeah, I think the fact it was just, you know, let's put it in the cover story quick because everyone's going to, be very intrigued by it, and then we're just gonna say, "Oh, that's never gonna happen again." But
okay, any final thoughts on these Straw Hats before we talk about some of the supernova and some other things?
No, I guess just going back over it here. I just you know, when I did my first read, which was maybe 2 days ago, I was like, okay, you know, I just still, like I said, I guess it's something I maybe need to work with mentally. I get very assured of something, like, oh, you know, even back in the cover stories when they're getting sent to these places, oh yeah, they're gonna do their thing and it's all gonna work out. And as I'm reading over it, like, oh yeah, they're going through these things, but you know, Frankie always blowing himself up. Now he probably did duck and cover. He's probably fine. that might not be the case. Yeah, this not. Might be just this might just be a little touch up, a little intermission to remind us that they're there.
There might be permanent repercussions for any of these events.
Yeah, it's gonna be another 10 volumes for the show up again.
Yeah, maybe.
And maybe I could say assured, but also in my time I've been very historically like eager to accept something that I want to be true. So like, oh, they're back. Like, okay, they're not. It's not a cover story. They're getting written back in. So you know, it's just Rayleigh's meeting up with Luffy, and you know they're gonna make this all work out. I guess that's just my optimism, which I'm very well known for, coming and shining through here.
Yeah, the white pill guy is what they call you.
That's right. You won't find a black pill video anymore, so let's just say that much.
The Gorosei make the claim Blackbeard is the only person in history to ever eat 2 devil fruits. And so many people jump to the conclusion, well, obviously, the yummy yummy black darkness fruit must be the secret. It went under the dark blanket. It must have used it to suck up the power. Well, if Blackbeard's the only person in history, and I assume other people have had this yummy fruit before, why did they never do that? How does Blackbeard know that the fruit can do that if nobody's ever done it? What's so special about him that he uniquely, out of all of history, can do this?
Oh, that's a very good question. I have to wonder maybe when he made the decision to kill his own crewmate, could this have been perhaps maybe some kind of deal with the devil situation that we don't really have a full explanation for yet? Maybe, well, let's say this much too. He became a warlord in order to double cross. We know that Doflamingo answers to a power that's greater than, and it's some secret power that's like the highest of the high powers. Could this super high secret power, who is seems to be pulling some strings behind the scenes in the shadows, could this whoever possibly have the ability to procure a dual spec devil fruit blessing for whoever does their bidding to the utmost? Because Blackbeard seems to be very inclined to. And speaking of the what'd you say, the Gari, I just know them as the elders.
The Gorosei.
The Gorosei.
Goro, I believe, means 5, and Sei probably means like stars.
But to mention them, they do say that the Gosei do say that Blackbeard has taken out one of the supernovas already, and I don't know if it's mentioned specifically here in this last chapter who exactly gets taken out, because we get some.
Let's figure it out. We could process of elimination it, because we see Killer, we see Kid, we see Arouge. He's going to Lightning Island, and a creepy old lady pulls up. We know it's not Zoro and Luffy. Do we see Law? Did Blackbeard take out Law? I guess he's with Luffy in the submarine, but then he takes off. They leave.
Well, I don't think we see my good personal friend, unless I might be recalling, but Mr. Apu, the music man, is he anywhere to be seen here?
Last time we saw him was probably watching Ace's execution.
Mm. And as I recall, it's not the top of my memory right now because it's been a little while, but his power on Sabaody, I felt like, was pretty decently strong, as I recall. I know you'd kind of been watching the action, so you might have caught him at an off moment, a good vulnerable time, opportunistically. But I seem to recall, that he had some pretty good strength to him. So, and I think he was over 100 million.
All the supernovas are.
Yeah. So, with him not being here, being very memorable. I mean, there was the girl who changed ages and stuff too.
Bonnie.
Yeah.
And she, last time we saw her, she was crying, saying, "Oh, we have to go find him in the new world." And you said, "Oh, maybe it's Blackbeard. Maybe she's pissed at Blackbeard for killing Whitebeard."
Yeah. So I think that probably with that context and her not being in chapter 594 here with these other ones, if I was gonna say between her and Apu, I feel like that's a good lead that it could have been her. And Blackbeard just kind of seems like the kind of guy, he just ain't really given a heck. I think if it would be the easiest for him to take out a woman, for whatever reason, that might be his inclination. Or maybe he could have seen maybe her power to change the ages could have been a weakness for him, particularly that he was not fond of compared to Apu's power. So
Blackbeard's kind of old. Like, I think he's in like his 30s or something. Wouldn't it be nice if he could be permanently 20 age me down to my prime. I want to be Luffy's age. That'd be nice to get her on the crew.
That's true, but
I guess if he took them out, probably did not recruit them. Hey, here's something I want to talk about, and this might be our last thing before we gotta go. Do you remember what happened to Gang Beige?
Gang Beige.
It's very brief. There's like a giant fucking moon in the sky that is sucking things up into its gravity, and it looked to me there was like 5 entire islands that had been pulled out of the ocean and are sticking to this thing, and then Beige's ship gets pulled up to it, and that's all we see.
Oh right, yeah. That was
it's fucking insane.
Seems to either be a planet or a moon or something
Yeah.
that's got like the gravitational pull.
Yeah.
Well, and it specifies, I believe, that is in the New World. I don't know.
And they say the New World is so dangerous and fucked up that the first half of the Grand Line is called Paradise, which is so funny. Right. All that horrible shit we went through, that was paradise compared to this.
Actually, yeah, that's right. And it's I forget which one of the supernovas it is, but they're like going by an island, and it's just nonstop, like hundreds of bolts of lightning just
that was a
striking every inch of the island. Yeah, that's right.
Is that Eneru Island? Did somebody with Eneru's fruit, do an awakening that makes endless lightning forever? Kind of like how Eni's lobby is always sunny.
I don't. It's very bizarre. I feel like, in the same way that when we first came to the Grand Line, and the weather was just like completely different. Like every 5 minutes, there was like horrible tempests, and then that's just all kinds of things just changing so sporadically, no sense whatsoever. The only way to go from point A to point B is to have the log pose. Well, I guess there's gonna be some New Game Plus type business. I mean. For all we know, Blackbeard, in the New World, one of the supernovas got taken out, but they might have just sailed slightly off like 10 feet in the wrong direction and instantly died.
Yeah, how does Nami's navigation save us from the planet that sucks us up into its gravity? How do you sail through that?
Well, I doubt there's any correlation here whatsoever, but it is kind of funny how Eneru's last known location was on the moon, and this looks like it could be like a moon-like planet sucking the islands up, and then the other thing we see is like a ton of lightning strikes.
Yeah, all in the same chapter.
I mean, hey, I'm sure Eneru would be very fond to see the New World. We like Eminem, we like, the Arc Maxim. There's a lot of cool things. We like the general auto insurance Weasel Man, who's, running around doing his thing on the moon, and all of his population, species, and civilization that's up there. So, if he wants to make a return, it could be very interesting. But
I'm looking forward to any explanation to what this gravity planet is, and hopefully Oda clears it up very soon and doesn't make us wait too long. Any final thoughts or predictions for the future, Eggy?
I guess I could just say, if we're talking the Grand Line first half and how the weather it no longer makes any sense whatsoever, maybe this is the extreme version of that. Like planets just come swoop down and cause like horrible destruction, and then just like fly back off again. Reality is tearing apart at the seams. Buggy, save us!
In Robin's flashback, when they go into the Tree of Knowledge, there is like a model set up of a planet with a bunch of things orbiting around it. So maybe there is some weird moon that orbits way too fucking close. But surely somebody else would have noticed it by now.
Well, the New World seems to be very mysterious, so it just, I guess, maybe even shows a little bit more, if we want to talk about how we were talking at the beginning, how a reread could kind of give certain precedent to certain things, just for all of these New World pirates to show up on behalf of Whitebeard. Now we have to see what they have to deal with on the regular, and it was still quite a battle that they were in. But I don't think we talked about how Garp and Sengoku both, after such an a negative overall performance. Yeah, Ace is dead, but it was with Luffy coming back, ringing the bell. It's bad PR, bad press. They got Garp and Sengoku resigning from the Navy to let the next generation come up. And Aokiji, I believe, is named as a possible new lead admiral of the Navy.
Sengoku does recommend him. And would that be a positive or negative change, do you think, to have the Iceman in control?
I do have to say, he played his role in the Paramount War, but he, in my opinion, seems to be overall more well-adjusted than Kizaru and Akainu. So, yeah, I feel like, one of those lesser of two evils situations, or three evils in this particular instance. So, yeah, if one of them had to go be the new leader, I would pick Aokiji, I think. Yeah.
And then I wonder if he gets replaced, like they have to keep the hierarchy of one fleet and then 3 normal admirals. I'd like to see who replaces the Iceman and what power he would have.
I think it's Kobe's time to shine. Shank said you're going to change history right here by what you just did, and I think it's time to cement that legacy.
We got to get him a devil fruit of some kind. What would match Kobe? I don't know, but I gotta pee and we gotta get to happy hour, so Eggy, tell everybody goodbye.
One quick prediction. All right, Luffy's gonna keep getting back on his feet. We're heading to the New World, folks, and the New World also is gonna incorporate us going to happy hour. There's new, fantastic, magnificent, strange, scary things. Sabo will be avenged. We're gonna find him. Ace will be avenged. We're tatted up. We have beautiful memorials to all those we loved, and all the real ones will never be forgotten. Make sure to go to youtube.com, stream the new song, They're Coming to Take Me Away. Gonna be on Spotify for sure by the time this comes out. I have to go to mysweetmonkey.com and get the new thing plugged in. But anyways, thank you all very much for your support. Cool movie reviews coming soon. Make sure to join for $3 a month. And folks, the New World is here. Let's go see
Chapter 600 next week, Eggy. Have you read 600 chapters of anything in your whole life? Not until next week.
I probably haven't had 600 unique experiences in my entire life thus far. Very routine.
Peace. One piece, people. Caught myself.